The night Sophia decided to leave the village, sleep refused to come. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed, listening to the weak rhythm of her mother's breathing from the next room. Every cough pierced her chest like a blade. The kerosene lamp flickered, throwing tired shadows against the mud walls, and Sophia clasped her hands together as if prayer alone could hold her world together. Her mother had been strong once, strong enough to raise her alone after her father's death, strong enough to farm, to trade, to smile even when there was nothing. But sickness had stolen that strength. The village nurse had said it gently, but the meaning was cruel. Take her to the city hospital. This illness needs proper treatment. Proper treatment meant money. Money they did not have. At dawn, Sophia packed a small bag, 2 dresses, worn sandals, and her mother's old scarf. She knelt beside her mother's bed and kissed her forehead. "I'll be back, Mama," she whispered, forcing confidence into her voice. "I'll bring help." Her mother smiled weakly. "God will go with you, my daughter." Those words followed Sophia onto the dusty road. The bus to Abuja was crowded and noisy. People argued over seats, traders shouted prices, and engines roared angrily. Sophia sat by the window, clutching her bag like it might disappear. As the bus moved, her village faded into the distance, replaced by long roads and unfamiliar landscapes. Fear crept in. What if she failed? What if Abuja swallowed her whole? She pressed her palm against the window and whispered a prayer. Abuja overwhelmed her. Tall buildings scraped the sky. Cars rushed like angry rivers. People walked fast, as though time itself chased them. Sophia stepped down from the bus and felt small, like a single grain of sand in a desert of ambition. The first day, she searched endlessly. Restaurants turned her away. Offices glanced at her clothes and dismissed her with polite smiles. Some didn't bother pretending. By evening, her feet throbbed and hunger gnawed at her stomach. She sat on a pavement curb, tears threatening to spill, and wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. But then she remembered her mother. She stood up. On the 3rd day, she found herself standing before a towering luxury hotel. Its glass doors reflected her tired face back at her. For a moment, she almost walked away. This place was too grand for someone like her. But desperation pushed her forward. Inside, the air smelled of wealth, clean, cold, and distant. A supervisor looked her over carefully as Sophia explained why she needed work. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held determination. An hour later, Sophia held a temporary staff tag in her hands. Cleaner. The word had never sounded so beautiful. That night, in a tiny shared room provided for staff, Sophia lay on her thin mattress staring at the ceiling. Exhaustion wrapped around her, but relief warmed her chest. She had a job. She could save her mother. She had no idea that this same hotel, this place of survival, would soon become the doorway to a destiny she never imagined. And somewhere within those luxurious walls, fate was already preparing to collide with her life. Johnson Kingsley had saved countless lives. He had stood in operating rooms where death hovered close, his hands steady, his mind sharp. He had built hospitals, funded research, and turned medical brilliance into an empire that stretched across cities and borders. Yet that morning, sitting in his private doctor's office, Johnson felt more helpless than ever before. The room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioner. Sunlight streamed through large glass windows, illuminating the framed certificates lining the walls, proof of excellence, success, and prestige. None of it mattered now. The doctor cleared his throat, holding a file that suddenly felt heavier than it should have. "Mr. Kingsley," he began carefully, "we've run all the tests, repeated them. I'm afraid the results are conclusive." Johnson leaned forward slightly. "Just tell me." The doctor met his eyes. "You cannot father children." The words landed softly, but their impact was brutal. Johnson blinked once, then again. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. "I'm what?" His voice sounded distant, unfamiliar even to himself. It's a medical condition, the doctor continued gently. You're healthy otherwise, but biologically. Johnson stood up abruptly, cutting him off. That's enough. The doctor watched him with sympathy. I know this is difficult. I said that's enough. Johnson snapped, already reaching for his jacket. He walked out of the office without looking back. Inside his car, Johnson sat in silence, hands resting on the steering wheel. The city moved around him, horns blaring, pedestrians crossing, life continuing as if nothing had changed. But inside him, something had cracked. Children. He had imagined them, little feet running through his mansion, laughter filling rooms that were always too quiet. A future he suddenly realized would never exist. His phone buzzed. Amara, his girlfriend. He ignored the call and drove aimlessly, the city lights blurring as the sun dipped lower. At a traffic stop, fate struck again. Johnson's eyes drifted to the sidewalk, and his breath caught painfully in his throat. Amara stood there, laughing. Her hand rested on another man's chest. Too close, too intimate. Then she kissed him. The world stopped. Johnson felt his heart collapse inward, a sharp, silent break that stole the air from his lungs. His vision blurred, not from tears, but rage, disbelief, and humiliation. The traffic light turned green. He didn't move. A car horn blared angrily behind him. Still he stared, until the image burned into his soul. That night, Johnson drowned his pain. He drank in a dimly lit bar, one glass melting into the next. Expensive whiskey burned down his throat, but it couldn't burn away the betrayal, the diagnosis, the loneliness. The bartender asked if he was okay. Johnson laughed bitterly. Do I look like it? Hours later, unsteady and hollow, he stumbled out into the night. His driver tried to help him, but Johnson waved him off. I'll manage, he slurred. He didn't remember how he got to the hotel. He didn't remember swiping the keycard. All he remembered was the crushing weight in his chest and the desperate need to feel something other than pain. As the elevator doors closed, Johnson leaned against the wall, eyes heavy, heart shattered. He had no idea that within those walls, inside that very hotel, his broken life was about to collide with a destiny neither money nor medicine could control. And that one night would rewrite everything he believed about loss, love, and miracles. The presidential suite was quiet. Soft golden lights reflected off polished floors as Sophia moved carefully around the room, her cleaning cart rolling gently behind her. It was late, and most guests were already asleep, but overtime meant extra pay, and extra pay meant medicine for her mother. She wiped the glass table slowly, humming under her breath to calm her nerves. Luxury still intimidated her. The curtains were thick and elegant, the bed massive and perfectly made, the scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. Sophia reminded herself to focus. This was just work. Then the door clicked open. She turned. A tall man stepped inside, his movements unsteady, his suit rumpled, his eyes dark with something she couldn't immediately name. For a second, neither of them spoke. Her heart skipped. Good evening, sir, Sophia said quickly, lowering her gaze in respect. I'm almost done. I'll leave immediately. The man stared at her as if she were unreal. Johnson's world had been drowning in shadows all night. Diagnoses, betrayal, alcohol. But the moment his eyes landed on her, something shifted. She looked nothing like the women he was used to. No arrogance, no calculation, just quiet innocence and gentle strength. Sophia bent to gather her tools, suddenly uneasy under his gaze. She began. Before she could finish, he reached out instinctively and caught her wrist. Sophia gasped softly, fear rushing through her. Please, sir, she whispered, panic tightening her chest. I need to go. Johnson froze. The sound of her voice cut through the haze in his head. He looked down at her hand in his, realization flickering across his face. I'm sorry, he murmured, loosening his grip, but the closeness lingered. Too close. Emotions he didn't understand surged inside him. Loneliness, pain, longing. And Sophia, overwhelmed and confused, felt her own breath hitch. The room felt suddenly smaller, warmer, charged with something dangerous and unfamiliar. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then everything blurred. Morning light crept into the room quietly, as though afraid to disturb the aftermath of the night. Sophia woke with a jolt. Reality crashed over her in waves. Fear, shame, confusion. Her heart pounded painfully as memories returned, fragmented and heavy. She sat up quickly, her hands trembling. What have I done? She looked toward the bed. The man slept deeply, his face calm in a way she hadn't seen the night before. He looked powerful even in sleep, and distant, like someone from a world she didn't belong to. Sophia's throat tightened. She dressed hurriedly, her movements rushed and silent. Tears blurred her vision as she searched for her shoes, her fingers shaking. She needed to leave. She needed to forget. As she reached the door, she paused, her hand resting briefly against her chest. Then she fled, down the hallway, out of the suite, out of his life. In her haste, she didn't notice the small gold earring slipping from her ear, landing softly on the bed. Johnson woke hours later with a splitting headache and a deep, unfamiliar emptiness. He rubbed his temples and sat up slowly, confusion clouding his thoughts. The room smelled different, lighter, softer. He wasn't alone last night. That much he remembered. He scanned the room, and then his eyes caught something on the bed. An earring. Small, simple, feminine. Johnson picked it up, his fingers closing around it slowly. A strange ache settled in his chest, one he couldn't explain. Who was she? Why did she feel important? Outside the window, the city carried on as usual, unaware that two lives had just collided, and that nothing would ever be the same again. The hotel garden was alive with the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle trickle of fountains, and the faint scent of roses in bloom. Sophia, still exhausted from the night's work, wheeled a watering can carefully across the flower beds. The morning sun kissed her skin, warm but not gentle enough to chase away the fatigue etched into her bones. She bent over a bed of roses, humming softly to herself. The repetitive motion of watering calmed her racing mind. But the memories of the previous night, the hotel room, the billionaire, the earring, pressed like invisible weights on her chest. She swallowed, trying to focus only on the water droplets glinting on the petals. But the exhaustion was relentless. Her vision blurred, her knees wobbled, and dizziness clawed at the edges of her consciousness. She stopped for a moment, gripping the handle of the watering can, trying to steady herself. I can't, she whispered under her breath. The world spun. The last thing she remembered before her body gave out was the sunlight catching the gold earring she had tucked away in her pocket, the one she had accidentally dropped the previous morning. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes again, the world smelled of fresh grass and something else, something unfamiliar and commanding. Panic hit her before recognition. She tried to push herself up, but her body refused. She was too weak. And then she heard a voice, a deep, warm, concerned voice calling her name. Sophia! Her eyes shot open fully. Above her stood a man she recognized immediately, Johnson Kingsley. Her heart lurched violently. He was taller than she remembered, his dark brown skin glowing under the sun, his broad shoulders perfectly framed by a crisp white shirt. His eyes, sharp and intense even in the bright daylight, were fixed on her with worry. He didn't hesitate. In one swift motion, he scooped her into his arms, holding her close. Sophia's eyes widened in shock and fear. "What are you doing?" she whispered, voice trembling. I'm fine. Put me down." "You're not fine," Johnson said firmly, his voice steady but gentle. "You collapsed. I'm taking you to the hospital." Her mind spun, panic rising. Hospital? The billionaire? My life? What is happening? She tried to push him away, weakly at first, but she had no strength. His grip was firm, yet careful, reassuring in a way that made her heart race uncontrollably. As he carried her toward the luxury black car waiting nearby, hotel staff watched in hushed astonishment. Whispers spread quickly. The CEO? Carrying a cleaning girl? Sophia's face flushed. She buried it against his chest, embarrassed and confused. Her life had become a whirlwind of impossible situations, each more surreal than the last. Johnson ignored the whispers, focusing only on her. He could feel the faint weight of her small frame, the subtle rhythm of her heartbeat, and the delicate way she fit perfectly in his arms, as if she belonged there, even though his mind screamed otherwise. Inside the car, Johnson kept her gently supported, his eyes glancing down occasionally to check her condition. Sophia, still pale and trembling, stared out the window, her mind a chaotic swirl. Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Johnson's gaze softened. "Because I have been looking for you." The words hit her like a thunderbolt. She froze, disbelief etched into her features. "Looking for me? You don't even know my name." "I remember last night," he said quietly, pulling out the small gold earring she had dropped. "This reminded me of you." Her breath caught. You brought me here for my earring? Are you trying to—" "I'm not trying to hurt you," Johnson interrupted, his eyes locking with hers. "You mean more to me than you know." Sophia's mind screamed with confusion. This was the billionaire who had disrupted her life completely. The man whose presence in her hotel room had left her reeling. But now he was here, carrying her, protecting her, as if fate itself had woven their lives together. The car glided silently down the hotel driveway, carrying them both toward the hospital. Outside, the city continued its hurried rhythm, unaware that two destinies had just collided in the quiet splendor of a hotel garden. Inside, Johnson held her close, his mind replaying every detail of their encounter the night before. The way her hands had trembled, the warmth of her presence, the vulnerability in her eyes. And for the first time in years, he felt a calm in the storm of his life, a feeling he hadn't realized he'd been missing until now. And Sophia? She felt herself caught between fear, embarrassment, and an inexplicable sense of safety. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but at that moment, cradled in the arms of a man she couldn't fully understand, she allowed herself to rest, if only for a moment. The hospital lobby was bright and sterile, the scent of antiseptic mingling with the faint aroma of flowers from the entrance. Johnson wheeled Sophia's wheelchair through the automatic doors, his strong frame moving with purpose. Despite the polished floors and white walls, the world felt surreal to Sophia, a mixture of fear, confusion, and the lingering disbelief from the morning's collapse. "Stay calm," Johnson murmured, keeping his voice low but firm. "You're safe. Everything will be fine." Sophia looked up at him, her dark chocolate eyes wide with suspicion. "Safe? You brought me here. Are you going to—" She swallowed, panic rising. "Are you going to harm me? Are you harvesting my organs?" Johnson froze, caught off guard by the accusation. Then he shook his head vehemently. "No, never. You are the one I've been searching for. His voice cracked slightly, emotion breaking through his normally composed demeanor. "I'm sorry, I never meant to frighten you." Sophia's face hardened, anger and disbelief mixing in her expression. She tried to pull away, but her body still trembled from weakness, making her movements sluggish. A nurse approached, clipboard in hand, smiling gently. "We'll get her settled, Mr. Kingsley." Johnson nodded, guiding Sophia to a private room bathed in soft light. He helped her onto the hospital bed, adjusting the blankets to make her comfortable. She looked small and fragile against the crisp white sheets, and he felt an unfamiliar, protective ache. "You should rest," he said quietly, sitting close beside her. His fingers brushed against hers as he reached into his pocket, pulling out the small gold earring she had lost. Holding it delicately, he placed it in his hand, studying it for a moment, as if it were a lifeline. Sophia's eyes fell on the earring, her expression frozen. That's mine. What are you doing with it? And why am I in the hospital?" Johnson met her gaze, the weight of the morning's events pressing down on him. You're the one I can't forget. You, the girl from the hotel suite. I've been searching for you ever since." Her face paled further, a mixture of fear, confusion, and dawning realization flashing across her features. You mean you're the one from the hotel? The one last night? Johnson nodded slowly, swallowing. Yes, it wasn't supposed to happen that way, but now I know. I can't stop thinking about you. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth, the color draining from her face. Stop thinking about me? You mean you got me pregnant? Johnson's eyes widened in shock, disbelief etched across his features. Pregnant? But my doctor said I couldn't. The door opened then, and a young doctor entered, holding a tablet with the latest results. His expression was professional but kind. Congratulations, he said, his tone neutral yet celebratory. You're pregnant. With twins. Time froze for a moment. Sophia and Johnson stared at each other in stunned silence, the words echoing in the quiet hospital room. Sophia turned toward him, eyes blazing with anger and disbelief. Twins? Twins! You bastard! I came to work to earn money for my mother, and now you've... Her voice cracked, tears forming in her eyes. You've gotten me pregnant. What am I supposed to do now? Johnson sat back, stunned, his mind racing. But my doctor, how? This is impossible. Sophia shook her head, incredulous. Impossible? I trusted you. And now, Her voice trembled as reality hit her like a tidal wave. Before she could continue, Johnson rose, a determined fire lighting his dark brown eyes. You're safe. I will take care of you. I will take care of your mother. You, my queen, you won't be alone in this. Sophia's heart pounded, a mixture of fear and reluctant hope swirling inside her. She wanted to resist, to scream, to run, but something in his eyes told her he meant every word. Johnson carried her gently, wrapping a protective arm around her as he guided her back to his car. The hospital staff whispered behind them, eyes wide with curiosity and admiration. Sophia's heart raced, not with fear this time, but with the dizzying realization that her life had changed forever. As the car sped toward his mansion, the city lights of Abuja sparkling outside, Sophia clung to the edge of uncertainty and hope. The future was unknown, but one thing was certain. Her life and Johnson's were now inextricably intertwined, and nothing would ever be the same again. The black luxury car glided through the tall iron gates, the metal opening slowly as if welcoming royalty. Sophia stared out the window, her heart pounding louder with every inch they drove forward. The compound was enormous, manicured lawns stretching endlessly, marble fountains sparkling under the afternoon sun, and a mansion so grand it looked unreal. Her breath caught in her throat. This is not the hotel, she said softly, panic creeping into her voice. Where are you taking me? Johnson parked the car smoothly and turned to her with a calm smile. You're safe here. Sophia shook her head, clutching her small bag to her chest. Please take me back. My supervisor will fire me if I don't resume work. I need the job. My mother needs treatment. Johnson laughed lightly, not mockingly, but with warmth. You won't be fired. She frowned. How do you know? Because I own the hotel. The words landed like thunder. Sophia froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. You own the hotel? Her voice trembled. You mean you are the CEO? Yes, he said simply. Her knees almost buckled. Oh my God, she whispered. I slept with my boss, and now I'm pregnant with twins. Tears welled up instantly. Johnson reached for her, pulling her gently into his arms. Sophia, look at me. You are safe. I will take care of you and your babies, and your mother too. You are not alone anymore. She didn't know whether to cry or run. Everything felt too big, too fast, but exhaustion won. Johnson carried her into the mansion as servants bowed respectfully, their eyes filled with curiosity and shock. He took her straight to his bedroom, a massive space with cream walls, gold accents, and floor-to-ceiling windows that flooded the room with light. Rest, he said softly, laying her gently on the bed. You need it. He ordered the maids to attend to her carefully. to treat her like a queen, then informed her he had an urgent meeting at the office and would return shortly. The moment he left, the room fell silent. The silence shattered violently. The bedroom door burst open. "Hey!" Sophia jolted upright. A tall, light-skinned woman with flawless makeup and expensive clothes stormed in, fury blazing in her eyes. "Who are you?" the woman snapped. "And why are you sleeping in my man's bed?" Sophia stammered. I don't understand." Before she could finish, the woman grabbed her arm roughly and yanked her off the bed. "Get out!" she screamed. "Gold-digging trash!" The maids rushed in, terrified. "Madam, please, Mr. Johnson brought her himself. He ordered us to—" Slap! The sound echoed painfully. The ex-girlfriend slapped the maid hard, rage distorting her face. "Shut up! All of you, get out!" Sophia's heart shattered. Tears streamed down her face as humiliation burned deep in her chest. Without saying a word, she picked up her small bag and walked out of the mansion, barefoot, pregnant, broken. The maids followed her desperately. "Please come back," one cried. "If Olga comes and doesn't see you, he will fire us." Sophia didn't answer. She walked along the roadside under the hot Abuja sun, tears blinding her vision. "Why me?" she sobbed. "What did I ever do to deserve this?" Meanwhile, Johnson was already moving heaven and earth. He had sent his men to locate Sophia's mother and immediately move her into a top private hospital. No expense spared, the best doctors, the best care. On his drive back home, something caught his eye through the tinted window. His heart stopped. Sophia, barefoot, crying, with his maids trailing behind her in their uniforms. "Stop the car," he ordered sharply. He jumped out and rushed to her. "Sophia, what is going on?" She didn't respond. She couldn't. The maids trembled as they explained everything. Johnson's face darkened with fury. Without another word, he lifted Sophia into his arms and carried her back into the car. The mansion trembled with tension when they returned. In the sitting room sat his ex-girlfriend, legs crossed, sipping wine like nothing had happened. Johnson entered like a storm. "What are you doing in my house?" he thundered. "Who gave you the right to send my wife away?" The woman laughed sarcastically. "Your wife? When did the wedding happen?" Sophia froze. "Wife?" Johnson didn't hesitate. "Sophia is my heart, my everything. You are my past." The ex-girlfriend's smile faded. "I saw you cheating on me," he continued coldly. "And now you come here to destroy my family? Get out." She dropped her glass, falling to her knees. "Please, Johnson." "Guards," he called. "Take her away." As she was dragged out screaming, Johnson turned, scooped Sophia into his arms once again, and carried her upstairs. The maids watched in awe, whispering prayers and wishes of their own. In the bedroom, Johnson held Sophia tightly. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I failed to protect you." She sobbed against his chest. His phone rang. "Sir," the voice said, "your people have moved Sophia's mother to a private hospital. She's stable." Sophia gasped. He smiled gently at her. "Tomorrow we'll go see her." Tears of gratitude replaced her pain. She hugged him tightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much." For the first time in a long while, Sophia felt hope. Morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the mansion, bathing the room in gold. Sophia sat at the edge of the bed, one hand resting protectively on her growing belly, her heart fluttering with a mixture of excitement and fear. For the first time since everything had turned upside down, she felt a sense of peace. Johnson entered quietly, dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers. He smiled when he saw her awake. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Yes, I want to see my mother." They drove through the calm Abuja streets, the city waking slowly around them. Sophia stared out the window, her thoughts racing. What will she say? Will she be disappointed in me? The hospital loomed ahead, clean, modern, and bright. Johnson held Sophia's hand as they walked inside, his presence steadying her nerves. Her mother lay on the hospital bed, looking stronger than she had in months. Color had returned to her dark skin, and her eyes shone when she saw Sophia. "My daughter!" she exclaimed, struggling to sit up. Sophia rushed forward, tears spilling freely as she embraced her mother. "Mama, you're better," she sobbed. Her mother cupped her face gently. "God has been kind to me, but look at you. Your eyes are brighter. Tell me, who is this man?" Sophia turned to Johnson, who stood respectfully by the door. "Mama, this is Johnson." Johnson stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Good morning, Ma. I'm honored to meet you." Her mother studied him closely, his posture, his calm confidence, the way he looked at her daughter with care. "You brought my daughter here?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, "and I promise you, I will protect her and the children she carries." Sophia froze, holding her breath. Her mother's eyes widened. "Children?" Sophia nodded slowly, resting a hand on her belly. "Mama, I'm pregnant, with twins." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then her mother smiled. She placed her hands on Sophia's belly and whispered a prayer. "Children are a blessing. God does not make mistakes." Sophia broke down in tears. Her mother reached for Johnson's hand. "Young man, wealth is nothing if your heart is empty, but I see sincerity in your eyes. If you truly love my daughter, then you have my blessing." Johnson swallowed hard. "I give you my word." Sophia watched them, her heart overflowing. Later that evening, they sat together in the hospital garden. Birds chirped softly, and a cool breeze brushed against Sophia's face. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for my mother, for everything." Johnson smiled. "You and the babies are my miracle." She looked up at him, something warm blooming in her chest. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that happiness was possible, even after pain. That night, back at the mansion, Sophia stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Johnson joined her, wrapping a jacket gently around her shoulders. "This is your home now," he said softly. She leaned into him. "I'm not scared anymore." Above them, the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to a love born from chaos, growing into something unbreakable. Time no longer moved the way it used to. For Sophia, each day now revolved around the gentle rise and fall of her belly, the soft, fluttering kicks that reminded her constantly she was not alone anymore. Two tiny lives were growing inside her, fragile yet powerful enough to change destinies. The mansion had become quieter, calmer, almost sacred. Sophia spent her mornings walking slowly through the garden, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. The maids greeted her with respect now, bowing slightly, calling her Madame Sophia. She still wasn't used to it. Sometimes she paused and smiled sadly, remembering the days she wore a cleaning uniform, scrubbing floors just to earn enough money for her mother's drugs. Now, she wore flowing maternity dresses, her dark chocolate skin glowing, her face fuller, softer, more beautiful. Yet inside her heart, fear still lived. The first time Johnson took her out publicly, whispers followed them like shadows. At a charity medical event hosted by Johnson's foundation, cameras flashed. Business partners stared. Society women whispered behind manicured hands. "Is that her, the hotel cleaner? She trapped him with pregnancy." Sophia heard it all. Her fingers trembled as she held Johnson's arm. She wanted to disappear. Johnson stopped walking. He turned to face the crowd, his deep voice calm but powerful. "This woman is the mother of my children. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Sophia looked up at him, stunned. From that day, the whispers softened. At night, however, when the mansion lights dimmed and silence crept in, Sophia's fears returned. "What if you regret this?" she asked one evening, tears shining in her eyes. "What if you wake up one day and realize I don't belong in your world?" Johnson pulled her into his arms, resting his forehead against hers. "Sophia, my world was empty before you. Wealth didn't give me peace, you did." She cried then, not from pain, but from relief. The pregnancy wasn't easy. There were days of nausea, swollen feet, and sleepless nights. Sophia often woke gasping from dreams of being abandoned, of returning to poverty with two babies in her arms. Every single time, Johnson was there, holding her hair when she vomited, massaging her feet late at night, reading medical articles obsessively, arguing with doctors when they suggested stress. "You are carrying miracles," he would say. "Rest." Her mother visited often, now strong and glowing in good health. She laughed again, prayed loudly, and teased Johnson endlessly. "You didn't think God would deny you children forever," she said once, smiling knowingly. Johnson smiled back, humbled. As Sophia's belly grew heavier, her confidence grew stronger. She began attending meetings with Johnson, not as decoration, but as presence. She listened, she learned, she spoke softly, intelligently. Slowly, people stopped seeing the cleaner and started seeing the woman. One afternoon, while they sat in the nursery Johnson had secretly prepared, Sophia felt a sharp kick. "They're strong," she whispered, smiling through tears. Johnson knelt before her belly, placing his hands gently. "My sons," he said softly, "your father is here." Sophia watched him, heart full, but fate, as always, tested them. One evening, Sophia collapsed from exhaustion. Doctors rushed in, voices urgent. "Stress," they said. "She needs rest, no pressure." Johnson shut the world out. He canceled meetings, locked gates, fired anyone who brought negativity near her. Nothing mattered more than her and the babies. Lying in bed that night, Sophia whispered, "Do you think I'm worthy of all this?" Johnson kissed her forehead gently. "You survived poverty, pain, and fear. You carried life when I was told I never could. Sophia, you are more than worthy. You are my miracle." She smiled, finally believing it. Outside, the wind rustled the trees softly. Inside her womb, two hearts beat steadily. And in her chest, hope bloomed, stronger than fear, brighter than the past. The night Sophia went into labor, the sky over Abuja cracked open with thunder. Rain poured relentlessly, drumming against the mansion windows as Sophia cried out in pain, clutching her belly. The twins had decided it was time. "Johnson!" she screamed, fear and agony twisting her voice. Johnson was at her side instantly, his heart pounding harder than it ever had in boardrooms or operating theaters. "I'm here. I've got you. We're going to the hospital now." Within minutes, the mansion was alive with motion. Umbrellas snapped open, headlights pierced the rain, and the luxury car sped through the storm, sirens wailing ahead of them. Sophia's pain came in waves, sharp, unbearable, relentless. She gripped Johnson's hands so tightly her nails dug into his skin. "I'm scared," she whispered between contractions. Johnson leaned close, his voice trembling. "So am I, but you are strong. You're bringing our sons into the world." The hospital corridor buzzed with urgency. Nurses rushed Sophia on a stretcher while Johnson followed helplessly, his coat soaked, his heart in his throat. "Sir, you'll have to wait outside," a nurse said firmly. The doors closed. Johnson sank onto a chair, rainwater dripping from his clothes onto the floor. He buried his face in his hands, praying like a man who had nothing left but faith. "God, you gave me this miracle. Please don't take them away." Minutes stretched into hours. Then, a cry, then another. Two strong, piercing cries echoed down the hallway. The doors opened, and a nurse smiled. "Congratulations, sir. 2 healthy baby boys." Johnson broke. Tears streamed down his face as he staggered to his feet, laughing and crying all at once. "My sons," he whispered. "I can't believe it." Inside the delivery room, Sophia lay exhausted but glowing. Sweat on her brow, her dark chocolate skin radiant with triumph. 2 tiny bundles rested against her chest, their cries softening as they felt her warmth. Johnson entered slowly, as if afraid the moment might vanish. "You did it," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "You're incredible." Sophia smiled weakly. "They're here." He touched his son's tiny fingers, his hands trembling. A man once told he would never be a father now stood undone by love. "They look like you," he said softly. Sophia laughed quietly. "They look like us." Sophia's mother arrived soon after, tears flowing freely as she held each baby. "God is faithful," she cried. "My grandchildren." The room filled with warmth, laughter, and whispered prayers. That night, when the ward had grown quiet and the babies slept peacefully, Johnson held Sophia's hand. "I thought my life was complete with wealth," he said. "But today showed me what real wealth is." Sophia squeezed his hand. "We survived." He kissed her forehead gently, his voice thick with emotion. "This is only the beginning." Outside, the rain had stopped. The storm had passed, and inside that hospital room, a new family had been born, stronger than fate, richer than riches, bound by love. The morning sunlight streamed gently into the hospital room, painting everything in gold. Sophia watched her sons sleep, two tiny miracles lying side by side, their chests rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Her heart felt full in a way she never thought possible. Not long ago, she had been a poor village girl scrubbing floors just to keep her mother alive. Now, she was a mother herself. Johnson stood by the window, silent, watching her. He had not slept, not because of fear this time, but because his heart refused to rest. Every time he looked at Sophia, something tightened in his chest: gratitude, love, awe. He walked closer and knelt beside her bed. "Sophia," he said softly. She turned, surprised. "Why are you kneeling?" Johnson took her hand, his large, steady fingers wrapping around hers. His voice trembled, stripped of wealth, titles, and pride. "I have stood before presidents and surgeons. I have signed deals worth billions. But nothing has ever humbled me like you." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I met you at the lowest point of my life, drunk, broken, angry at the world. You had every reason to hate me," he continued, "but you gave me something I was told I could never have: a family." He glanced at the twins, then back at her. "I don't want you in my life because of the children. I want you because my heart chose you before my mind understood." He reached into his pocket and brought out a small velvet box. Sophia gasped. Johnson opened it to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring, timeless, radiant, real. "Sophia," he said, his voice breaking, "will you marry me? Not as my mistake, but as my wife, my partner, my forever." Tears spilled freely down Sophia's cheeks. Memories flooded her mind: the sickness, the fear, the humiliation, being thrown out barefoot, the whispers, the pain. She remembered praying for survival, not love. She looked at Johnson, not the billionaire now, but the man who carried her in his arms, who saved her mother, who stayed awake beside her hospital bed. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, stronger. "Yes, I will marry you." Johnson exhaled sharply, as if he had been holding his breath for months. He slid the ring onto her finger and pressed his forehead to hers, tears falling. "My queen," he murmured. The nurse walked in just then and froze, smiling widely. "Congratulations." Sophia laughed through her tears. A new life begins weeks later. Abuja buzzed with news. The billionaire doctor was engaged to the former hotel cleaner. Some whispered, some judged, but Johnson didn't care. Sophia moved into the mansion fully, not as a guest, but as the woman of the house. Designers came and went, but she chose simplicity over excess. She enrolled in classes, determined to grow, to stand strong beside her husband. Johnson watched her with pride. Sophia's mother, now healthy and glowing, visited often, blessing their home with prayers and laughter. And the twins, named Daniel and David, became the heartbeat of the mansion. Forever, one evening as the sun dipped behind the Abuja skyline, Sophia stood on the balcony, holding one of the twins, while Johnson stood behind her, arms around her waist. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Everything that happened?" Johnson kissed her temple. "No," he said firmly, "because destiny doesn't ask for permission. It just arrives." Sophia smiled. Once she was a poor girl searching for survival. Now, she was a woman chosen by love, and this time, forever chose her back. Sophia's humble heart and perseverance inspire change. showing that small acts of care and integrity can create life-changing opportunities. Love can be found in unexpected places. True love sometimes arrives when you least expect it, reminding us to stay open to possibilities even after hardship. Strength and resilience are powerful. Sophia's courage through poverty, illness, and fear proves that resilience can overcome even the toughest challenges. Forgiveness and understanding heal hearts. Johnson's willingness to see Sophia beyond the hotel encounter teaches that forgiveness can lead to deeper connections and trust. Family is priceless. The love and support between Sophia, her mother, and Johnson show that family bonds, blood or chosen, are treasures worth protecting. Faith in destiny brings hope. The story reinforces that life may have twists and trials, but staying patient and hopeful can lead to miracles. True wealth is love and care, not money alone. Johnson's journey proves that real happiness comes from relationships, not just riches or status. Hey everyone! If you loved this story of Sophia and Johnson, the billionaire romance full of love, drama, and miracles, don't forget to like this video post. Subscribe for more heartwarming billionaire romance stories, thrilling twists,